To introduce Nathan Gwilliam. He started a company called Adoption.com, and he started this when he was a BYU student here, and he was developing a thesis with a plan to use the internet to help children who are in need of adoption. So that concept became Adoption.com, and he wrote that up and won the 1997 BYU Business Plan competition. They made a few tweaks to it and went out and won the 1997 U.S. West New Ventures Seed Money competition as well in that same year. So Adoption.com grew into a large company called Adoption Media, which is now the world's largest adoption organization, if you measure by the number of people using the services each month. Previously, Nathan was a co-founder and the CEO of Families.com, which was sold in 2007. Also a company called InSource, and earlier than that, a company called Today.com. So he's had quite a few internet companies and has super experience in things entrepreneurial and internet business. He's married to his wife, Crystal, and they have 3 daughters. He was awarded the Best of the Decade award from BYU Center for Entrepreneurship in 2005, and in 2007 was given the Adoption Hall of Fame Award by LDS Family Services. He's recognized as the leading authority on internet adoption issues and spoken at adoption and internet industry conferences. So we welcome Nathan, and also on behalf of the Center for Entrepreneurship, we'd like to present him with the small gift.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I get to see what it is? Cool. Thank you very much. The clicker's not working. There we go. Delay reaction. How much money have you ever lost in a day before? By show of hands, have you ever maybe left $100 in your pocket when you sent your pants to the dry cleaners? Or have you ever maybe lost some money on the stock market? Who's ever lost $100 in a day before? Raise your hand. At least $100. You ever lost more than $1,000 in a day before? Keep your hands high. You ever lost more than $10,000 in a day before? You still have your hand up back there? Okay, how much have you lost? Oh, how much have you lost?
About 40,000.
40,000? How'd you lose it?
Stock market.
Yeah, bad day, huh? Back there in the back, there's someone had their hand raised. How much money did you lose? I'm sorry? 12,000. How'd you lose it? Car was stolen. That's a bad day. Okay, anybody else over $10,000? Okay. I have the dubious honor that I have lost more money than anybody I know in one day before. I've lost more than $11 million in a day. I don't bring that up to brag, because I guess that's the opposite of bragging. I share that fact to illustrate a point. I sat in the chairs you're sitting in, took this class about 12 years ago. I've been through a lot in the last 12 years. I've done a lot of things right so that I had that much money to lose, and I've done a lot of things wrong, as illustrated very painfully with that figure. Today we are going to talk about the story of Adoption.com. I've started a variety of different businesses. We're going to focus mostly today on Adoption Media. The main brand of Adoption Media is Adoption.com. We're going to tell the story through the 5 phases of an entrepreneurial's business: concept and planning, startup, growth, maturity, and harvest. Then I'm going to share some of the things that I've learned, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Components that lead to business success. And we're going to share that within, we're actually missing one here on the slide, but marketing, sales, technology, organization operations. There's also people and human resources, and then capital and finance. So the first entrepreneurial phase, concept and planning. I served my mission in Brazil. I fell in love with the children, the street children of Brazil. And a missionary, gives some change out to these kids when they ask them. But that money of a missionary runs out very quickly. And I vowed that I would do something to make a lasting and a permanent difference in the lives of orphans when I returned. So after I returned, I spent a summer working for my father, who was an adoption attorney. And I helped him do a marketing program for his adoption practice. Then the following summer and part of the school year, I worked trying to start a Brazilian adoption program. As I had served in Brazil, I tried to start a brand new program. This proved much more difficult than what I had expected. Brazil had a law that required that the husband and the wife both must spend 90 days in Brazil, and it just was kind of an insurmountable obstacle. Most people can't have both the husband and the wife spend 3 months away from their job without being able to earn that income. But what that did for me is it helped me to learn an industry. This was my first real business venture, was trying to start this Brazilian adoption program, and I failed. How many times do you hear the story of the entrepreneur who succeeded, but the business in which he succeeded was not his first business? I did not succeed in my first one, but I learned a lot about adoption. In August of 1996, I was starting my junior year at BYU, and I had a brand new group of roommates, and I was taking a message for one of these roommates. It was maybe the third or the fourth day of school, and the message was, I'm taking this class called HTML, and the caller was signing up for it, and he was trying to get my roommate to sign up for the class as well. Neither of those two people ended up taking the class, but I ended up signing up for the class. And I learned about the internet, and I ended up taking the next class. Soon thereafter, I was working on my research project with the honors program. Welcome. And since I was a business student with an emphasis in entrepreneurship, they asked me to write a business plan as my thesis. So I decided to write a business plan on how to use the internet to help children and families. As I did that research, without ever thinking about it and kind of on another fluke, I went to the adoption.com website and sent them an email asking if they would be interested in buying. Had never even thought about it before that. They ended up offering to sell for $10,000. We negotiated down to $6,000 and purchased the adoption.com domain name. In February of 1997, we launched the first version of the adoption.com website. It was launched in the computer lab that used to be the Tanner Building Computer Lab. It was on the third floor, I think, the exact opposite side of the building. Took a large portion of that side. And we launched with the help of multiple of the TAs that worked in that computer lab. In April of 1997, we were blessed to win the BYU Business Plan competition that gave us a really good boost of confidence and credibility for our business model. And then in October of 1997, we won the U.S. West New Ventures seed money competition. This was a really critical moment. We didn't know this at the time, but looking back, I have no idea how we could have survived without winning the second business plan competition and receiving the money and the recognition that we received from this. On the night that the application for that business plan competition had to be postmarked, I didn't have a lot of money. I was a new entrepreneur. I went to my father's house and went and got something to eat. I figured I'll just grab something to eat. I'll come back, finish up the application, and get it postmarked at the post office before midnight. So on my way back from dinner, I'd never been in a car accident in my life before, and I was rear-ended. It took forever for the police to come. And then I didn't have my registration, so I had to get my father to bring it. And he didn't have a car with him, so he had to ride his bike down there with my registration. And by the time this all finally got resolved, and I got back to my office, and I quickly just spent maybe half an hour throwing together whatever I had, filling out the application. I got down to the post office. It was 12:45. And this business plan that ended up being an essential part of our success had to be postmarked before midnight. So I went up to a door, and I never should have postponed. I should not have procrastinated. And I can justify it saying that, I was a small business owner and I was wearing a whole bunch of different hats and doing the best that I could, but something this important, I never should have waited until that last minute. But in spite of myself, went up to the door. It was an employee exit, and soon these 3 or 4 postal employees came out. And I handed them the envelope, and I said, this has to be postmarked before midnight. And they said, it can't be. It's already the next day. And I said, it's for the children. It's going to help adoption. And so they took, it was true. They took it and they said, we'll see what we can do. And they went back inside. And about 5 minutes later, they came back out without my envelope. And they said, you are so lucky. The lady who's in charge of turning over the date stamp was at a baby shower for one of our coworkers and hadn't turned it over yet. So we were able to get it date stamped in time. We ended up winning the business competition, and the business survived as a result. Okay, so that was the creation and concept planning phase. The second phase is the startup phase. Rick Farr was a mentor. He worked with the Center for Entrepreneurship here at BYU, and he kind of took me under his wing. I don't know how we could have survived without Rick Farr. He helped us find our first offices, and he provided a lot of very valuable insight and wisdom for us that helped us through that startup phase. I remember our first adoption conferences that we attended. The first one was in March. It was the National Council for Adoptions Conference. This is the big conference, the big adoption agencies. And I remember I was just a poor BYU college student. I didn't have any money. I'd already applied for every credit card I could and basically maxed out all of those cards trying to start this business. And so I get to this conference somehow financially, and there were a couple really important agency directors that I really wanted to be advertisers, and I really wanted to establish this relationship. So I invited them out to lunch. I didn't think it'd be that expensive. And they ended up ordering lobster dinners, and it was much more expensive than a BYU college student was expecting. I can still vividly and painfully remember standing in the hallway of this restaurant, calling the credit card companies, trying to find one that had enough money to put the lunch on. The next conference was about a month later, and we bought the cheapest flight we could find, and to get the cheapest price, we had 3 legs to our flight. First leg was from Salt Lake to Denver. The next one was from Denver to Chicago, and then Chicago down to Sanibel, Saratoga area in Florida on the west coast. So we got to Denver, and then we are informed that the airport in Chicago was snowed in. And they informed us that the flight was canceled and there's nothing they could do. There were no additional flights, and we could not get to our conference in time. So we got them to get us another flight for another place in Florida on the east side of Florida. We got in late at night to our new destination. We spent the night driving across the panhandle of Florida, and then trying to find computer monitors and stuff, because all of our information, everything was on the other airplane, and we're able to present that next morning. Our first offices were one cubicle. Well, first it was the computer lab at BYU. Then it was a cubicle up in Orem at the Center for Economic Development of Orem, which is called CEDO. And then it was 2 cubicles, then 3 cubicles there, and then we moved into the Sarah Suites, which Rick Farr helped us to do. We secured 3 offices there. We grew a little bit too fast. By the end of the semester, our revenue wasn't where we had expected it to be. So one employee and I moved back to Arizona. My father allowed us to rent a little storage area, I guess is the best way I can explain it. Maybe from here to even smaller than that, maybe here to the wall. It was so small, and there were file cabinets in the area. It was so small that I put my desk on a file cabinet. I didn't have anywhere to put my knees under, so you're like sitting sideways trying to trying to work your computer. The next phase is the growth phase. Adoption.com has grown a lot since then. We're now the world's largest adoption organization. More than 10 million monthly page views, more than 1 million monthly visitors. That's a lot for a very small niche industry like adoption. We actually have over 2 million pages of content. A lot of that is user-generated content. We focused tremendously on developing the best advertising sales technology and advertising relationships. We were able to develop the best eCPM in the industry, which meant we made by far the most money per 1,000 pages delivered on our website as compared to any other adoption website. And because we could make more money per page view by like a factor of 3, we were able to buy our largest competitors in a leverage buyout where we basically just put our ads on their website and use that money to buy them. One of the most popular the most popular feature on the adoption media websites is the Adoption.com photo listing of waiting children. There are thousands of children who the adoption agencies list in this photo listing, and then the parents can go there and learn about how they can adopt these children. One of the other most popular features is our reunion registry, where we have well over 300,000 adoption records where adoptees and birth parents have left their information. So even if you didn't know the information about the name of the birth mother who placed you for adoption, you could go in and put maybe the hospital and the birth date and some other non-identifying information. And if both of you wanted to find each other, that connection can be made. We operate the largest registry of hopeful adoptive parents, where these couples who would like to adopt build profiles with scrapbooks and photo galleries and letters to birth mothers and all sorts of different information. And then the women who are pregnant and considering adoption go and select the family they feel most comfortable adopting their child. We produce the world's largest adoption publication, the largest online adoption community and support group, the #1 adoption blog network, and a variety of other services. The next phase of entrepreneurship is maturity. It hit me that we had reached that stage when I was invited back to speak at that first adoption conference. Remember the one where I was, trying to find the credit card to put the lobster dinners on it? When I was invited back to speak as the keynote speaker at that conference, at the exact same hotel. There are problems that come with maturity. The biggest problem that we faced was that of a plateau. You go to Google, you type adoption, and 3 of the top 4 results are properties that we operate. So what do you do for an encore? You get number 5 in the search results. It starts getting more and more expensive to see incremental growth and that return on the investment. So it's important, number 1, that you pick a market that is large enough to reach the growth that you're expecting. And number 2, it's important that when you start to max out that area, that you be able to expand into other related segments. We did that, for example, in the area of infertility and started launching infertility-related websites. There's also the myth of maintaining. Some people think that they get a good thing and, why kill the goose that lays the golden egg? Let's just keep doing some more of the same. And those companies slowly disintegrate. The only way you can maintain is to grow and build and innovate. Also, an essential point of the maturity of our business was a greater desire and a greater ability to give back, to mentor others in the space, to provide good jobs. We were especially grateful and excited about providing jobs in developing countries such as India, where we put a lot of our development resources. To be involved in shaping the industry, to be part of government groups that are awarding grants in the industry. Another really fun project that I bring up because I think it's very appropriate to the group that's here is the More Good Foundation. That's a project that I've been very blessed to be involved in. Who here has ever heard of the More Good Foundation? Show of hands. I was blessed for about a year to be the president of that foundation. We build websites like LDS.net, Christ.org, MormonChurch.com. This is a foundation, a nonprofit foundation funded by David Neeleman of JetBlue Airlines and most recently Azul is his newest airline, where that organization works to fill the internet with light, to combat all the negative voices and the disparaging voices about the church. And they provide tools so that people like you and me, you and I, can get involved in sharing our light online. So I encourage you to go visit some of their websites and pick something that you can do to be an online member missionary. It's a great thing when you're here in Provo and there aren't a lot of missionary opportunities. It's a really good way to get involved. And it's making a really big difference. The last entrepreneurial phase is the harvest. I was able to harvest families.com in March of 1997. This is a different venture than what we've been talking about. I spent about 2 years building that venture, a website for helping connect and build and strengthen families. With Adoption Media and the related entities, we've had substantial acquisition interest. My partner has not been interested in selling. I've made a buy-sell offer to my partner. Okay, now we're moving to the components of business success. So there's 5 components, and I'm going to focus on teaching some of the things that I've learned, the mistakes that I've made, and some of the things that have gone well within those 5 components. So within marketing and sales, some of the elements that I think are the most important. Whenever I mentor a student and I talk about their business model, if their business model does not have recurring revenue, I always try to integrate recurring revenue into their business model. How can you get a subscription revenue stream? How can you get a revenue stream that still comes into you even if you're on vacation or you go serve a mission or whatever it is you want to do? How can you build a recurring revenue stream into your business model? Relationship marketing is another very important point. Many of us have been exposed to sales and marketing that really turns us off. It's the hard sale, the hard close, the tricky ways to force somebody to do something they really don't want to do. That's really not what business is usually about, and that really is not what works, at least in the types of businesses I've been involved in the most. I recommend this book called Spin Selling. It's about relationship marketing. It's basically the golden rule, treating people the way you want to be treated and establishing long-term relationships. The last point I'd like to make about marketing and sales is to believe in yourself. When I started my first business, I didn't think I was a good salesman, and I hired salespeople to do it for me, and I realized that as an entrepreneur, I was one of the best salespeople we had. I was very passionate about the product, very knowledgeable about the product. I cared about the product a lot more than the salespeople. So don't sell yourself short. You may be a better salesperson than you think you are. Technology is something I'm very passionate about, and I could spend a lot of time talking about the technology sides and the internet sides of business and how that's revolutionizing the business world and how that prevents so many opportunities to each of us and to young budding entrepreneurs. The most important points that I would like to make is, number one, avoid the trap of custom development wherever possible. When I started Adoption.com, you had to do custom development. There wasn't a lot of choice. There weren't a lot of software options. That is not the case today. The landscape for internet ventures is completely changed. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of great technology solutions that are either free or very inexpensive. Virtually anything you want to do can be done with existing technologies. When you use existing technologies, there are a variety of benefits that come to you. Number one, the cost is spread out across a whole bunch of people. Number two, you can follow a development path. I'm still using some technologies that we built 6 or more years ago that have never been touched or upgraded because we did them with custom development. Where when you follow an existing technology, you can follow somebody's upgrade path. And all of the new upgrades and features and enhancements that are added to that technology, you can take the benefit of, and it doesn't cost you anything or it costs you very little. You also avoid what I call the 2-week nightmare. I've had so many developers who've said that technology is awful and the code is spaghetti code and I can recreate something better than that in 2 weeks. 6 months later, You finally get something launched. You've lost all this time to market. It doesn't have nearly the features of what you expected. And you then don't have the upgrades and the support and all those other features that you needed. I avoid that like the plague, and that's one of the technology recommendations that I make. Also, Google offers a lot of the pieces of technology that your business needs for free. Google would be, if you use them, one of the largest investors in your business. From their email solutions to their online document sharing, their ad serving, their ad representation, their website statistics, their communication tools like Google Talk, calendaring. If you are starting a business, I recommend that you get to know Google and the other companies like Google that offer a slew of products free or very inexpensively. Google offers these because they hope to deliver ads to you or hope that you'll use their ads that they've integrated into these features. So they can afford to offer them for free. Use them as a business owner. It's like getting a $10,000 investment in your business right off the ground. The second key component of business success related to technology is outsourcing. There are a whole bunch of websites, from freelance.net to Odesk to elance.com, which we use. There are many companies that allow you to post a project and allow hundreds of developers to come in and bid on this project. I had one project that closed today, and I had 13 people who bid on the project. So now I get to go in and choose which of those 13 people I would like to do this project. It generally comes back at a significantly reduced cost to what it would cost me to have my employees build it. Offshore development is something that has become increasingly easy. We do most of our development in India. I have a friend who does a lot of their development in the Philippines and is very happy. Look at countries where English is a language where they've studied in college and they can converse very well in English. And you might be able to hire 3 or 4 or 5 developers for the same cost of one, or just pay a third or a fifth the cost. Another really important concept to outsourcing is the specialty concept. If I want an iPhone application developed, or I want a Facebook application developed, I can go hire PHP developers or Java developers who can go build applications for me. But it might take them 6 months to do it. I might be able to hire somebody that knows iPhone applications inside and out who could do it in 1 month instead of 6 months. So it's really important to not just look at a developer who knows the technology, the core technology, but also a developer who's built that same kind of application. They may charge double or triple the hourly rate, but are able to do it for less cost because they know it. The next component of business success is organization and operations. One of the most important pieces of this is to pick something that you love. I don't think that I cannot remember ever looking at a clock while I worked at Adoption.com and waiting until 5 o'clock till I could go home. I don't remember ever. I loved what I did. I enjoyed every day. It was a challenge. It was an adventure. Pick something that you love. You're going to spend more time at work probably than you're going to spend with your spouse. Pick something that you love. This next concept is something I'm very passionate about. It's called social enterprise. I don't do any ventures unless they, in addition to making a profit, they also make a difference. Life is too short to just do a business that makes money. There are people that go choose to be a doctor, a dentist, or a lawyer, which are all very good professions and you may love, but they pick those things maybe for the wrong reasons. Some of the people do. And they end up not enjoying what they're doing. It's not worth it. Pick something that you love, and you'll be good about it. You'll be good at it. You'll find a way to rise to the top, and you'll find a way to do very well at it. The next one is big, hairy, audacious goals. We call them BHAGs. Stephen Covey talks about these. He refers to picking outrageous goals. These are goals that are achievable, but they are so big, they are motivational. They inspire the team to work and perform at a higher level. If you're not setting those kind of goals, you will not reach those kind of goals. And if you do set those kind of goals, you'll actually be surprised at how many of them you can reach. If you've clearly defined goals like that you can reach. Examples of that might be Kennedy saying, I want to put a man on the moon by setting a specific date. It was a crazy goal, but they figured out how to do it once that goal was set. The next component of business success related to operations and organization is to prioritize and execute. I have found, and maybe it's just me, but in small business there is never enough time to do everything. It's impossible. You couldn't even do half of everything that you want to do, or a third. It cannot be done. The unsuccessful business people keep themselves busy, and they do the urgent things, the things that you feel like you're keeping busy and you're putting in a lot of hours, but they might not be the most important projects. The most successful small business entrepreneurs, it seems like they find a way to identify the highest priorities, keep those on a priority list, and they figure a way to get those done. You'll never get everything else done, but the less important ones will fall off in the priority. Always have a good operating agreement. Make sure there's a great buy-sell provision in that. Get an attorney involved. A lot of people say that, I'm going to do business with my college roommate or with my mission companion or with my uncle or cousin or whatever, and so they don't think they need an operating agreement. That's all the more reason why you need an operating agreement, is because of that relationship, to protect that relationship. When things go good or when things go bad, you need a way out. When one of the two people want to exit, make sure there's a way you can get out without destroying that relationship. It is almost always true that it's easier to get into a business than it is to get out of a business. So be very careful when you're getting into a business that you do it right. Don't give away equity needlessly, too. This is something that I say a lot, and a lot of business success can be attributed to this. When a window opens, jump through it quickly. A lot of opportunities are unexpected things that you never planned for. They were a phone call that came from somebody that you never expected, or an email with some idea that you never thought of. When the big opportunity hits, do it immediately. Don't wait. The next component is people and human resources. The most important human resource decision you can make is to have God as your partner. Pick a business venture that He's going to care about. Set up a company that He's going to care about. And live your life in a way so you can expect that help. I remember after I had applied for every credit card and maxed out every credit card, I was still up here at BYU. It was before we had gone down. I was still a student. And I remember coming home on a Thursday night with payroll the very next day. And I remember not having a penny for payroll the next day, or virtually nothing. I had no way to pay payroll the next day. And I had several employees. And not only had I applied for every credit card and maxed out the credit cards, I had applied for extensions on the credit cards, extending credit limits had been rejected. And I had no way to pay for this payroll. And that night, I came home, I got my mail. There was a letter from Citibank extending my credit limit exactly enough to cover payroll the next day. We would not have survived without the divine hand of providence helping us. We give credit to that, and I think that most successful business owners would do the same. Next really, really important point, and this is the biggest problem I'm dealing with right now, is don't hire anybody you can't fire. If you hire good friends, if you hire ward members, if you hire family members, more often than not, and maybe this is just me and my management style, but these people often act differently. When somebody feels protected, when somebody feels that they cannot be fired, they don't perform at the same level often that they would perform at another job where they didn't have that same protected status. Can you imagine being made bishop of employees that you worked for and having to fire one of those employees? It's just a really difficult situation to put yourself in. The best model, instead of hiring people that you quote-unquote trust who are family members, the best model is interview a whole bunch of people, find the A-quality employees, the best ones, find 20 good candidates for a job, hire the best one, be willing to fire half of the people in the first year if they aren't an A-quality person, and then pay them really well. That is a much better staffing solution than hiring friends and family. You'll get much better quality people, they perform at a higher level, you'll have much more stability, yada, yada, yada. The next point is to network and find qualified mentors. If you're starting a business in the footwear industry, find people who've worked in the footwear industry, who know what they're doing. Get them involved. Get them to sit on a board. Most of the time, these people won't even ask for equity. They'll do it to help you out, to help you get started, because they've been there and people helped them out. People helped us out. But get help. Don't try to do it yourself. Don't try to reinvent the wheel every time. Run your business ideas and your concepts by other people, and then trust the feedback that they give you. This next point I can testify to is absolutely true. I am now regarded as the leader, the recognized expert in the field of adoption and internet adoption issues. It may seem like a very niche industry or niche field to you, but that's what I do. And I am the world expert at this. I go speak at conferences and I consult for people. I've consulted for people. It is easier than you think to become an industry expert. I've heard it said, very early in my career I heard it said, that if you spend an hour a day studying something, that within 2 years you could become an industry expert. Invest in yourself. I subscribe to almost 100 blogs. And I actually at least browse the titles of almost all of those. I aggregate them with an RSS aggregator, but I still spend a lot of time reading. This last week, I bet I received 8 new books from Amazon.com that I've ordered. Read, constantly be learning, constantly be educating yourself, and it will pay off as you become the industry expert. The last component of business success is the capital and finance component. There's a lot of different things I could talk about in this area. I had to narrow it down to the ones that I thought were the most important. The most common question I get when I mentor students is, how do I get the money to finance my business? How do I get it up off the ground? So this is how I got my business off the ground. I received a $10,000 loan from my father, plus a computer and some software and some other things. I applied for credit cards personally and maxed out those credit cards. I don't recommend that. That's what I did, and it worked for me. It has not worked as well for some other people. We won 2 business plan competitions. If you've got a good plan, submit it to those. There's a lot of money that can come from that. And then the last point isn't shared to tell you specifically to do this. It's meant to illustrate a point of bootstrapping, of finding a way, of creatively finding financial resources that your business needs. In 1996, Network Solutions was the exclusive registrar for domain names, and they charged $100, but they didn't charge you at the time you purchased it online. You bought it, and then they sent you a bill, and you had 90 days to pay the bill. So to finance our business, we would go register bunches of domain names, and we would try to sell them during that 90-day period of time. And if we could sell them, we would renew them or would transfer to the person. If we couldn't sell them, we would let them expire. We didn't have the money to pay the $100, but we made thousands and thousands of dollars selling those domain names. Later, when we had a little bit of money, we had about $150,000. We invested that $150,000, and we went out and identified We contacted many, many different domain name owners who own single-word domain names or key domain names, and we ended up buying the ones that were available for the best prices. This was back in 1998, I think. We bought advertising.com and woman.com, retirement.com, stockmarket.com, a whole bunch of those. Within a year or so, we ended up flipping those. I believe we made over $1 million or more from that, which helped to finance our businesses. Next important component of capital finance is related to taxes. Always pay your taxes. IRS is not an investor. IRS is a very, very bad investor. If you have to fire employees, if you have to go without a paycheck, if you have to cut expenses drastically in your company, always pay your taxes and always make that commitment up front. This last point is how I lost $11 million in a day. In 1998, I believe, I took a company public. It was a software company. We were developing internet software solutions for turnkey vertical portals. And we put about $4 million into this product. Well, put that back. We spent $4 million in the company. And we even had $22 million committed from a group to keep funding us and take us to market. In 1999, I don't know how many of you remember what happened, but the dot-com bubble burst. All the financing dried up. All the dot-com stocks plummeted. I lost a lot of money in a day and eventually lost the company. If I had that experience to do over again, I would have taken myself and 3 or 4 developers, I would have locked us in a room, and I wouldn't have come out until the product was done. Our problem was when times got tough, the product wasn't all the way finished. And I didn't have the financial ability to finish the product and take it to market. It's more important to stay small. It's more important to focus on a product. It's more important to focus on getting that product sold and getting to profitability and getting to sustainability and being small. A lot of times entrepreneurs fall into the trap of wanting to be big and hire a bunch of staff and get big fancy offices, and that's often our undoing. Stay small, get profitable, get sustainable. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So the key points that I'd like you to take home from the lecture. Find a big idea, an outrageous idea, a big, hairy, audacious idea that can make a difference and make a profit. Something that you can be proud to leave a legacy when you're done. Leave as a legacy when you're done. Number 2, try to find a recurring revenue component to your business model. Number 3, find experts who can help you and will willingly help you. And I'm not even talking about for equity. And then invest in yourself and become an expert. Number 3, bootstrap. Don't look first to investors. Look to how you can creatively finance the business yourself. With a small budget, get to profitability and sustainability first. Then, even if you do need to go take investment capital, you'll have to give up far less of the company than if you take investment when you're just an idea. The next point is to leverage existing technologies and services. Don't spend a lot of money recreating the wheel. Prioritize and execute. Know the most important things. Get them done. You won't have enough time to do everything. And then set and reach your outrageous goals. Thank you. That's my presentation. Do I have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, what's the recurring revenue principle in your business?
We have